herself, who has been missing for over a decade. But is this true? Or are we facing another mystery within this already dark case? Today, we will analyze the facts and understand the impact of this revelation. If you want to stay updated on the most impactful mysteries and follow every step in the search for the truth, subscribe to the channel now and activate the notification bell. Every detail matters, and you won't want to miss the next one. Can you imagine the impact of this? After so many years, someone emerges saying they are Madeline Macann. It's not just a theory or a guess. It's a young woman in the flesh, claiming to have proof that she is the girl who disappeared in 2007. And if this is true, what does it mean for everything we thought we knew so far? Julia Faustina's story begins intriguingly. She grew up in Poland but says she never felt connected to the family she lived with. According to her, there are gaps in her childhood that cannot be explained, as well as inconsistencies in the documents she received. It was only after she began seeking answers on her own that she found something that changed everything. The famous photo of Madeline Macann with the distinctive mark on her right iris. By comparing this image with her own features, Julia became convinced that she could be the missing girl. From there, Julia began sharing her suspicions online. Side-by-side photos, accounts of childhood flashbacks, disconnected memories. All of this quickly attracted attention, making headlines and dividing opinions. While some believe it's just a coincidence or a desperate attempt to gain attention, others believe she might be telling the truth. What makes it even more interesting is that the Macann family themselves have not dismissed the possibility. They are in contact with Julia and have agreed to conduct a DNA test to confirm or refute her story. But here is where the complication begins. The Madeline Macann case has always been surrounded by false leads and people claiming to know the truth. What makes Julia different? Well, what stands out are the details she has brought forward. Julia not only compared her appearance to Madeline's, she also highlighted similarities in specific body marks and even mentioned that her supposed kidnapping might have occurred under circumstances similar to those described in 2007. Authorities, however, remain cautious. So far, there is no concrete evidence linking Julia directly to Madeline's disappearance. This does not mean her story is dismissed, but rather that there are many unanswered questions. For example, if Julia is truly Madeline, how did she end up in Poland? Who was involved in this alleged kidnapping? And why did it take so long for her to appear? And as all this happens, the media and the public react intensely. Social media is flooded with debates, comparisons, and of course, skepticism. It's not the first time the Madeline case has attracted global attention, but this time it seems different. Because now we're not dealing with a vague lead or an unfounded theory. We're dealing with a person putting her identity on the line, telling the world she is the missing girl. Julia's story could be what everyone was hoping for, or just another false hope in a case already marked by disappointments. But regardless of the outcome, one thing is certain: the impact of this twist is already being felt. Let's delve deeper into the details of the investigations, the reactions of the authorities, and what all this could mean for the future of this mystery that has persisted for over a decade. With each passing day, the pressure mounts. Julia Faustina, with her story and claims, has brought new energy to a case that seemed destined to remain unanswered. But as the world debates the veracity of her statements, the clock continues to tick. And with every minute that passes, an inevitable question arises. If this young woman is indeed Madeline Macann, what else might be escaping our notice? I wonder, how would Kate and Jerry Macann experience this new chapter? The weight of hope mixed with the fear of another disappointment must be overwhelming. And yet they continue because, for them, time never stopped since that night in 2007. This new possibility brings not only an opportunity for answers, but also the responsibility to revisit a pain that has never gone away. And now we are in a race against time. DNA tests, investigations, and even doubts need a swift resolution. Because until that happens, all we have is another chapter full of questions and perhaps more surprises than we can imagine. What comes next could change not only the course of the case, but also the way we understand this mystery to date. And I say this with all sincerity: what we discover next could be the answer we earlier is not just about DNA tests or bureaucratic analyses. It connects to something bigger, a doubt that needs urgent answers. Is Julia Faustina's story truly consistent? So far, the Polish young woman has presented elements that challenge common sense. She has the mark on her iris, gaps in her documents, and fragmented memories of a childhood she believes is connected to the Madeline case. But is that enough? This is where we start to find contradictions. Julia stated that she does not recognize her biological family, but at the same time, people close to her report that she grew up without major doubts about her identity until recently. This raises a question: why have these memories only surfaced now? Did she discover something recently that reinforced this conviction? And more, how to explain the age difference. Julia is 21 years old, while Madeline would have been 19. Although there are cases of incorrect birth records, this discrepancy cannot be ignored. Another point that stands out is the reaction of the authorities. While some lines of investigation consider the possibility that Julia is Madeline, others dismiss the idea as unlikely based on initial analyses. But here comes the twist. There are inconsistencies in the official account of the Macann case itself. For example, during the 2007 investigations, there were witness reports claiming to have seen a blonde child being taken by a man. These descriptions were never fully explored. Could Julia be that child? Now let's talk about a specific detail. Julia mentioned having flashbacks of a place she believes is the Ocean Club Resort where Madeline disappeared. And upon seeing photos of the location, she identified areas that seemed familiar to her, even though she has never visited Portugal, or at least according to her family. This is a point that defies any easy explanation. How could someone with no known connection to the country recognize such? There are questions about Julia's motivations. Some people accuse the young woman of seeking attention, especially for using social media to share her claims. But, on second thought, who would make such a controversial statement, risking their own credibility without believing there is something true in their story? That's where the situation becomes even more complex. And then we have the reaction of the Macann family. Although they have already faced false leads and empty promises in the past, the fact that they are willing to take a DNA test shows that, for them, it's worth considering this possibility. And if Madeline's own parents believe it deserves a deeper investigation, who are we to ignore what Julia is saying? But there is still a crucial gap. If Julia is truly Madeline, why didn't anyone recognize her before? How did she manage to stay off the radar for so long, especially in a case that received worldwide attention? The answer to this question might lie in the very complexity of the disappearance, which has always been marked by confusing clues, contradictory reports, and an investigative system that, at various times, has fallen short. So where does this leave us? We are faced with a mystery that, with each new piece, seems to deepen even further. Is Julia who she says she is? Or is this story just another page in a case full of twists and turns? Julia Faustina's case reminded me of another mystery that, for years, seemed impossible to solve: the disappearance of Stephen Stainer. Stephen was taken from his family as a child and lived under a new identity for 7 years until a simple detail: the courage to escape and tell his story unveiled everything. But in Julia's case, there is a difference that makes everything even more intriguing. She does not fully remember what happened, only fragments of a story that may or may not be real. This raises an inevitable question. Are we seeing a pattern of disappearances that, like Stephen's case, will only be solved when an unexpected element emerges? Or are we clinging to a thread of hope, trying to connect pieces that, in the end, do not fit? When I think about how these cases unfold, I realize that the truth often lies in the details we choose not to see, or simply do not want to believe. And now we reach the most delicate moment. If Julia is right, what does that mean for all the other unsolved cases? And if she is wrong, what does this story say about our search for answers amid the chaos? Let's compare what experts point out as possible in her case with what we've learned from other stories that defied the odds, and which, in surprising ways, reached a conclusion. Julia Faustina's story seemed to follow the same pattern as so many other leads in the Madeline Macann case. Intriguing at first, but hard to sustain over time. However, when we look at the details presented, we realize that this story carries nuances that go beyond a simple coincidence. Like other cases of late-solved disappearances, there is something here that defies the obvious and keeps doubt in the air. One of the first theories that emerged is that Julia might be part of a larger plot, perhaps a planned kidnapping, as she herself suggests in her accounts. She claims that her childhood memories include images of places she never consciously visited, such as beaches and buildings, similar to those found in the Praia da Luz area. Experts who have analyzed these accounts state that, although fragmented memories can be confusing, they can also indicate real traumas experienced in early childhood. On the other hand, some believe that Julia is being manipulated by third parties. Her sudden exposure on social media, the lack of concrete evidence so far, and even the reaction of her Polish family raised doubts about the veracity of her claims. But here is the detail that cannot be ignored. The Macann family themselves have not dismissed the possibility. They know this could be another false lead, but even so, they decided to proceed with the DNA test. And what about the physical marks? Comparing Julia's images with photos of Madeline revealed important similarities, such as the unique mark on the right iris. Some genetics experts say this could be a significant indicator, but also warn of the possibility of coincidence. What we know is that this specific feature has been used as one of the central points in the search for Madeline since 2007. Now it resurfaces as one of the most discussed pieces of evidence. Another detail supporting Julia's theory is the fact that she does not have complete birth documents. She says her birth certificate and other records have inconsistencies, and her Polish parents avoid answering questions about her childhood. For those who believe Julia could be Madeline, this strongly suggests she might have been raised in a false environment, away from just confused. Some theories point to the possibility that she created her own narrative as a way to cope with traumas unrelated to the Macann case. Psychologists consulted by media outlets state that this would not be unprecedented in cases of people who suffered abuse or neglect in childhood. And then we come to a more controversial theory, that Julia could be used as a distraction at a time when the Madeline case is gaining new investigations in Germany. Christian Bruckner, the main suspect in Madeline's disappearance, is under scrutiny, and some people suggest that the attention on Julia might be a strategy to divert focus from the investigations that really matter. Amid so many theories and possibilities, the main question remains, is Julia really Madeline Macann? Or are we facing another desperate attempt to fill gaps in a case that has already carried so many frustrated hopes? The DNA test could resolve this doubt, but until then, all we have are loose pieces of a puzzle that once again defies logic. And while we wait for answers, one thing is certain. This story has already changed how the Macann case is viewed, bringing back questions about what happened that night in the 2007 and how, to this day, we have not been able to fully unravel what happened to Madeline. In the next segment, we will delve even deeper into the